Episode 2, Einstein Education. Today, we're going to talk about alcohol and sleep, the effects on each other, what those results are from the two, and some important solutions that we can take to improve these two aspects of the topic, right? And understanding the importance of sleep and the way that it affects our bodies is critical day to day. Just understanding more about it, and then just talking about, one of the most common things is how is alcohol affecting us on different levels. So we're going to dive in. We're going to talk about effects. We're going to get down and dirty and a little thirsty too. So I think it's important to talk about the effects that alcohol has on sleep. Right? When we think about alcohol, we think about it in a few different ways. Number one, it's a depressant. So naturally, it's a depressant, right? Number two, hormonally, it affects our body differently because it's a depressant. Number three, look at my notes here. It's a toxin. And number four, we want to look at solutions to it, right? So alcohol, being a depressant. Let's talk about number one. As you drink, hormonally, it's going to release chemicals in your brain and throughout your body that causes you to feel a state of depression. Now, that doesn't mean that, as we drink and we're going out socially that we're more depressed, right? But what the effects of a depressant do is it calms us down, right? Let's try to, we'll erase that. We'll erase that here. So we're still setting up an office here. So right now we're doing the whiteboard in a trash can. So number one, calms, lowers anxiety, okay, stress. So when we think about a depressant, we're not necessarily just thinking about being depressed. It's literally having effects that are depressing certain aspects about us. So if you're sad and lonely and that, and you drink alcohol, it's going to make you more of that because it complements that depressive side. But at the end of the day, it's also depressing in the fact that it can calm you down. It can reduce anxiety. It can reduce stress. Which then, what does that tend to do? It tends to boost mood. It tends to it can boost your mood, and it can also boost confidence. Because think about it. When we're less calm, or we're calmer, we have less anxiety and less stress, we're going to be in a better mood and probably more confident. So in this general sense, we kind of love alcohol, right? That's the big, effect of it. But as a depressant then, we also have to look at it from a hormonal side, right? So we love alcohol for that reason, right? Mr. Einstein's favorite alcohol is a high noon. Give this video a thumbs up if you love high noons, because I love them. Okay, now let's look at it hormonally. Hormonally. What's it doing? Well, then we tie into this. First here, then we tie in here. Okay? It's a toxin. So as a toxin, it's going to lower hormones. Unhealthily. Let's look at that way. Unhealthy. Okay? So being it's a toxin in our body, we have to then, it's our priority, number one. So as we consume alcohol, hormonally in our body, we then start to produce more of the unhealthy hormones. As it's a toxin, so our body's going to prioritize it number one in the body over anything that we do. Anything. We're talking about digestion, immunity, your immune system. We're talking about focus. These are all processes in the body, right? Even, for goodness sakes, going to the bathroom, right? Or sex. They're all processes, and whether it's the physical, right? Hormonally, it's affected us in different ways. Function, in general. And our hormones are always released depending on the kind of activity that we do, especially when we're drinking alcohol. So it's going to affect your digestion, your immunity, your focus, your function, and even little stuff like that, right? So, why is that important hormonally, right, as a toxin? Well, then we go right into sleep. How does that affect our sleep? Well, numbers, why do we sleep? Sleep is for recovery, regen, storage, for the most part. That's why we sleep. To recover from the day-to-day, if that's physical or mental. We look at regenerative, maybe muscles, soreness, hair, nails, you name it. We're repairing, we're regrowing, we're growing. And storage. Maybe it's thoughts, information, or, big one, muscle memory. Maybe I'm a boxer. The muscle memory that you acquire from boxing workouts while you sleep is in storage. Right? The recovery that you're going to have from boxing. The regenerative processes that you're going to have. Muscles, soreness. Maybe you lost some hair or nails. I got plenty of hair here. Ain't no problem there. So, these are the effect. This is the importance of sleep. That's the main purpose behind why we sleep. Typically, standards are 6 to 8 hours. This being the minimum, this being typically the max the maximum, where anything above 8 hours, there's no real evidence that it shows any more positive effects. Maybe 9. Other than that, you're actually going to start to see negative effects of sleeping too much. Grogginess, laziness, mental fog. So here's why we sleep. So with alcohol's effects then, being from it's a depressant, hormonal, and a toxin, here's what ends up happening. The fact that it's a toxin in our body, especially most of the time when we're drinking at night, it is reducing your sleep. Why? Because it's a number one priority. Sleep is a process, right? It takes a process for us to fall asleep. But if we have alcohol in our system, alcohol is the number one priority because it's a toxin and wants to get rid of it. So it's gonna reduce the amount of sleep that we acquire throughout the night. Number 2, hormonally, hormones. It lowers hormones, right? And then on top of that, not only does it lower the hormones, but you're also not going to be it's going to lower the time that you're in deep sleep. Which for deep sleep, that's the number one cycle for recovery, regen, and storage there. Okay? So looking at it this way, then you ask the question, well, I sleep fine when I drink. I drink and then I go right to bed. Well, look at it from a depressive side of things. It does lower anxiety. It does calm you down, right? It does lower stress. So in this sense, your ability to fall asleep increases, but your quality, which is the big factor, decreases. Look at everything's falling apart. Wow! Bing! So when we look at alcohol and sleep, we look at 4 things, right? This is going to be the solution, right? So maybe even just 3 things. The depressant side of things, the hormonal side of things, and it being a toxin. And into those effects here, these aspects, we then look at how it comes over to sleep and why we sleep. Restore, regen, and storage. Those are why we do that, right? That's why we love to sleep. And then we look at what is happening in our sleep when we have alcohol in our system. It's a toxin. It's the #1 priority. Your sleep is going to go down. Hormonally, they're going to lower. And then your time, especially in deep sleep where this big processes occur, is going to decrease because you aren't producing the right amount of hormones to enhance this process. But when we think about it, we look at falling asleep. Your ability to fall asleep increases because you lower anxiety, you're calmed down more, and you have less stress circulating through your system because of this. But then your quality of sleep is always less because of the hormonal effects of it being a toxin. So let's find some solutions. How can we balance these two? Get the best out of both worlds, because I think we all want less anxiety, to be in a calmer state and have less stress. But especially going into the gym, we all want this process to go up. Let's look at some solutions. I enjoy alcohol, especially high noons, or some good IPAs. Mr. Einstein loves them too. Most common sense, reduce. Okay. Reduce how much you drink. All right, going out, day to day, week to week. Reduce the total amount of alcohol your body's got to process, right? Stick to 1 day a week. Stick to 1 day every 2 weeks. 1 day a month. Whatever it is, maybe never. Depends on your lifestyle, who you're around, what you like, what you do day to day, social life. Just reduce it. The less your body has to process of it, the less of all these effects, right? Number 2, I would say timing, right? So, there's that saying of, 1 beer an hour, 1 drink an hour, because that's typically the time that, as it being a toxin, it takes your body that long to metabolize it and get that alcohol out of the system, urine, sweat, perspiration, etc. So with timing, separate the distance between alcohol and sleep. So if you're drinking alcohol up until the point that you pass out, that's pretty bad, right? At that point, you're not sleeping, you're knocked out. It's a depressant. The more you drink of it, the more your body has to metabolize it at greater quantities at one time, you're not falling asleep. you're passing out. That's why you black out, because it shuts everything off in your body. That's what the term blackout means. It's not a fun term. It's your body's blacked out. When we think about death, we don't think about red or white. We think about black. That's what our bodies turn when we're dead. It's all black inside, right? There's no blood, right? Like smoking, you see all that black stuff. It's because that's dead tissue. What's a scar? Is a scar the color of your skin? No, it's black. It's gray. It's dead tissue. Just like your mind or your body when you black out because you drink so much. So reduce, but also timing. So don't drink right up until you're going to fall asleep. Or give yourself an hour or two before you really, okay, I'm going to go fall asleep. Like control yourself enough that you time, okay, I'm going to be out till 1, 2 a.m., but then I'm going to stay up a little bit. Okay. 3, food. Okay, so consuming food will help with slowing absorption, right? Because you're putting something else into your system, right? It's not, okay, if I eat bread, it's going to soak up the alcohol. In a small general sense, it does, because bread is it's a chemical food. It takes yeast and it's created. But eating food will then slow the absorption, which will not, cut off the effects of what it can do to sleep, but it will reduce. It will reduce. It'll slow it down. It's not as intense. Okay. Reducing the total lump, consumption, the timing around when you're drinking and when you're going to fall asleep, consuming food, right? And then another one that I always say is, your environment. I mean, the more that you can sleep in a better environment, the less effects that this is going to have, right? So if you can get into your own bed, you can eat, shower, control these aspects of your, like in your environment where maybe you're traveling, maybe you're home, maybe you're at a buddy's. All these play, into an effects of your environment of how this is going to affect. So, the best solutions that I always say is, reduce consumption, control your timing, eat food, same as water, drink water, right? And understand your environment. Also, people, who you're around, are they constantly drinking? Do they know this information? This is why we want to create, quick little tidbit videos about this stuff, because it's just important. If we can get one person to understand this, whether you make any differences or not, it's going to improve you. It's going to improve your environment and surroundings, which improves others. So this is really what we wanted to cover. Alcohol, sleep. If you haven't, check out Einstein Education Video 1. That was a really good episode. And we're going to post some more. If you, give it a subscribe, thumbs up. We're going to keep just putting these out there. And if you have any feedback or questions or recommendations on something you really want to just learn specifically about, then, leave it in the comments, like, on our Instagram, Facebook, social media, all together, text message. Let me know, and I'd love to share this stuff. So, looking forward to the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, and get some good sleep. So, all right, see you next time.